I can hear me. Okay, so I've been my present job in scare quotes is I write a weekly column for a weekly paper called the North Coast Journal in Northern California. I live in Eureka, California, and they let me write about just about anything. It's called Field Notes, and it's nominally it's about science, nature, but I get in a bit of history, and I get a lot of Mars in there. And the reason I love Mars, I used to live in Palo Alto, and when I was doing both column and I'm doing this work for NPR, I used to go to NASA Ames and hang out with people like Chris McKay, Carol Stoker, Penny Boston, Leonard David, and people who really knew about Mars, and I just got totally immersed in Mars. So I've been writing about Mars off and on for 20-something years. And if there's one emotion that goes along with my experience of Mars, it's one of disappointment. Because I feel that time and again, the headlines that we read about Mars have been often overhyped, and a few days later we hear that things weren't quite the way they were supposed to be. And so the bottom line that I want to talk about today is how science writers and educators and people who are involved in somehow between the science and the public, or even artists, somehow overextend ourselves and promise more than is actually there. And the net result is that the public, I think, after a while, they get kind of wise to this, and it's like crying wolf. And so I'm here to make a pitch for those of us who are in this business to be more careful, more cynical, more skeptical about our sources, particularly NASA. You know, the old journalistic adage, when you want to know what's the angle, follow the money. And NASA would like nothing better than to get more money for its programs. And to do that, it has to have the support of the public. And you will not find anyone more enthused about getting to Mars, playing around with Mars, getting people on Mars, doing something with Mars, making Mars part of our everyday experience. And at the moment, I don't think NASA is doing a particularly good job. And I'm not sure that we, as including yourself, as a science writer, are doing that good a job. I think we somehow focus on the trees and forget about the entire forest. So let me start off by saying when I was 11, I knew a lot more about Mars than I know now. I knew that, for instance, this was the Eagle. The Eagle was the Boys Weekly back in the 1950s. And it shows you how easy it was then to get to Mars. And in fact, this was the Mars 1997, and this is the loading bay for the Queen of the interplanetary fleet. It's rather lovely. You can sort of imagine something. Gangway 7 for the Astral Queen. All passengers must be aboard in 15 minutes. You know, it's lovely. And so I knew all about Mars. I also knew something about the archaeology of Mars and the old civilizations that used to be on Mars that looked suspiciously like an old Egyptian civilization, but there it is. And then we had in England Journey into Space. Now, you've got to understand that this was never said journey into space. It was always journey into space. And then you hear, and this was, for an impressionable journey into space. And this was Captain Jet Morgan, posing with at the controls of the I forget the name of his ship that went, among other places, to the moon and to Mars, and he also went back in time. Anyway, so I can tell you all about Mars as it was circa about 1955. I'm an expert on that. I can't tell you a whole lot about Mars today. That's Mars Project. 1948 was the original publication of Werner von Braun's book, Das Mars Project. I think he was about 36 or 38 at the time when he published this. And this is how we're going to get to Mars and start colonizing Mars by 1968. Werner von Braun, who's, I think single-handedly, it isn't an exaggeration to say, created the Saturn V booster rocket, three-stage rocket that got us to the moon and landed 12 white American males on the moon. So here he is with John Kennedy. He was just a fascinating guy. I don't know if you've ever read anything about von Braun. I mean, he is the father of everything that we're talking about at this conference. Here he is in I think that was 1938 after he joined the SS, although he's still in city uniform there. I mean, this man was a pragmatist to the hilt. If it served his purpose to help promote a rocket design and to test rockets, then he would join the SS, he would employ slave labor, he was involved, of course, with both the V1 and the V2 project, when it looked like Germany was going to lose the war. He and his crew took off to America, and they were promptly involved in the American space program. That I suppose you can say culminated in 1969, the first landing on the moon. So that's von Braun. A later version of his book, Mars Project, was illustrated by Chesley Bonestell. He was probably, tell me if I'm right, Michael, he was probably the founder of the whole idea of space art. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, but certainly in modern space art.
Yeah, so anyway, this is Chesley Bonestell, who was illustrating, this is what the 1968 Mars Project base would look like. Actually, we just saw that in here, didn't we? Look at that, with the highest volcano in the solar system behind it. Anyway, so those domes do not look a little flimsy to me, especially for cosmic rays. Anyway, okay. So, fast forward to 1972. Anyone know what this is? Mars 3. It's the first soft landing on Mars. It landed, I think, July in, this was the Russian space probe. The Russians on Mars, as you probably know, it's not a happy story. They've lost like 17 missions to Mars. I'm not sure if you count this as a total loss. It was active for 15 seconds, landed on Mars, and it tried to send a picture back. That's the only picture we ever got back from Mars 3. They had better luck on Venus. Their later Venera spacecraft lasted for up to 2 hours on Venus. But anyway, so now, this is kind of interesting. I don't know if you can read this. Candidate hardware was Soviet Mars 3 lander. So it landed in 1971. And they think they found, with the Mars orbiter mission, they found it, which is pretty neat. This just came out about a year ago. They discovered it. Okay, fast forward again to, well, let's see. 1984, the Allen Hills. This is ALH, Allen Hills, 84001. So it was the first meteorite found during the National Science Foundation's expedition for that year. Antarctica is a particularly good place to go looking for meteorites. And ALH 84001 was realized a few years later, I think in 1993, that it did originate from Mars. And not only did it originate from Mars, but it's by far the oldest Martian meteorite. There are about 30 meteorites that we're pretty convinced, and this is by checking in the vesicles, they can check the atmosphere, especially the argon concentration, and show that about 30 meteorites have been found on Earth which originate on Mars. But they're all less than about 1.3 billion years old, except for ALH 84001, which dates, we think, to about 4.5, 4.6 billion years ago. So it was there at a very, very early time on Mars. And any of you were here for the first Mars conference and heard McKay, what's his first? David McKay? Have I got the name right? David McKay gave his presentation. So David McKay and his NASA group felt that they should really examine this meteorite. They're still doing so. But in 1996, they claimed that, or NASA claimed that indeed they found life on Mars on this meteorite. And in fact, looking at it, you think, yeah, that looks pretty alive. The debate has been going on since. It's far from over. In fact, 3 years ago, David McKay there was a new paper and got the whole debate going again. I mean, here we are talking about how we can get to Mars, how we can drill down, how we can get samples, how we can get samples back here, and all the time we may be sitting on something which shows life on Mars. So, okay, this was so important that Clinton made, gosh, how time go that fast? I thought I had until 3:30. I got 3:13, am I wrong? Okay. If you're lucky with this. Okay, so you probably can't read this, I'm sorry. I promised I wouldn't do this because of the things in the other presentation. Study may cast doubt on some 1996 evidence of past life on Mars. That was 2004, and so we'll pass over 84001 just because maybe NASA shouldn't have been quite as fast to glom onto that and should have done a little bit more peer review before they published that. Okay, so here's our friend Curiosity, photograph of it landing. And one of the prime aims of Curiosity, you may remember, was to find methane on Mars. Now, on Earth, 99% of methane gas in the atmosphere comes from biogenic processes, life. And back in 2003, and then to a lesser extent, I think about 2007, Earth-based instruments had found what looked like eruptions of methane on Mars. And so the idea is if there's methane on Mars, by golly, that means life. It doesn't mean past life, it means life right now. And this was very exciting. So Curiosity, one of Curiosity's existence of methane on Mars using the SAM sample analysis on Mars instrument. And I think I was excited, and I imagine some of you were equally excited that Curiosity was going to land, and within a few weeks or a few months we were going to find methane on Mars, and this is going to be really exciting. Well, I don't think NASA did a very good job telling us that they didn't find methane on Mars, or at least not more than, I think they put it about 4 parts per billion was the error margin that they can. Now, from my point of view, this is big news. You know, we've been talking about methane on Mars. When we don't find it, that is equally as big news as if we had found methane on Mars. So they didn't find methane on Mars. They did, of course, find lots and lots of evidence of ancient water channels, and we're talking about 4 billion years. This is the red line is the alluvial fan and gale crater coming down from what looks like an old riverbed up above it to the right. And if this isn't alluvium from flowing water, I don't know what it is. I think we can all agree for sure. And the Phoenix Lander had found ice water, and even the Vikings have seen evidence of little bits of frost on rocks. So we know there was water on Mars. Okay, so now we're going to last year. John Grotzinger is the chief scientist for Curiosity, and he sort of made a mistake. He was being interviewed on NPR, and his phrase was, I think SAM, the sample analysis on Mars instrument, had found something for the history books. And I think we're all thinking organics. It's found organics. It's found the building blocks of life on Mars, because this was from one of the first or second drill sample. So 3 days later, this was the headline, and he was NASA was sort of forced to backtrack, and it was like, well, the whole mission is one for the history books. We didn't really mean this particular sample here. And it put me, and I'm sure a lot of other science writers, in a bind, because we made a big deal out of this. You know, we told everyone, hey, they found something on Mars. We don't know exactly what it is, but the news is coming out. So, again, this is an example, I think, of where NASA could have done a better or more measured job of putting out the news. Okay, so then just recently we had that arsenic light-based. This would be a big deal. A non-phosphorus-based life on Earth. And if you read this one, but within a week, journal retreats from controversial arsenic paper. This wasn't a scientist making the claim. I mean, she was, but this was NASA making the claim on her behalf. And I just think, you know, when NASA speaks, it's got to be really careful. So, oh yes, and this has got nothing to do with NASA, but I just love this. We've sequenced DNA from Bigfoot. I come from Bigfoot country in Northern California, so this is really exciting to me. Turned out she'd actually bought a little science-based paper and put her own paper in it, and said this was in a scientific journal. So, well, we tried. Okay, so what's coming up? This is what I think of as Curiosity 2 or Curiosity 2020. So this is sort of more of the same for Curiosity, seeking signs of past life. this first was announced, the 2020 mission, we were going to confirm signs of life. So we're still seeking past life. This is, I think, as about as exciting stuff as you can get when we actually get samples back. We're not, I don't think, I think the claim was made this morning by someone that we needed to get geologists or people on site on Mars. I think this is going to come for a sample return mission. We can do a lot more with actually getting a sample back into our labs here on Earth than we can by doing the SAM sort of analysis on Mars itself. So this is, we don't know when this is going to be. The Icebreaker Life mission for 2018, which is landing near where the Phoenix mission landed, that's on the northern ice cap. They're going to be looking for some sort of biomarkers there. What do we mean by biomarkers? Well, enzymes, something that means life. But, and they say that the analysis instruments that they will have there will be good enough to test for that. I'm a little cynical. I think we're actually going to have samples sent back. At the moment, we do not have a scheduled sample return mission. What we have is we're going to be caching samples for a future return mission. So I'm always looking for ways to get my readers and the people who I get involved with, who care about Mars, how can I keep them excited? Because I don't think what Curiosity is finding these days is doing the best job in the world saying what is exciting about it. I asked a question this morning, what about one-way missions? Can we have one-way missions to Mars? When a paper was published about 3 years ago about one-way missions to Mars, NASA spokesman said we do not send our people on one-way missions. And I don't know if it was Zubrin or who reminded them, buddy, life is a one-way mission. I think one-way missions to Mars make total sense. And I think that would get people excited. I think the idea of putting people in caves, we think there are lava tubes on Mars, makes all sorts of sense. You may recognize this picture. This is Michael Carroll over here, who's my favorite space artist. We're going to be talking this evening. I think we can get them excited about Mars by showing them that Mars and Earth were kind of sort of sister planets 4+ billion years ago, and this is what Mars might have looked like when it had an atmosphere. This is terraforming. I don't think we've got any papers this time on terraforming. Terraforming is the most exciting thing since sliced bread. We do? Oh, okay. So anyway, this is what Mars is going to look like, and notice what the guy is reading. He's in his Levi's with a little rebreather on his head. This is what gets people excited. I'm looking for ways of getting people excited about Mars. We're going to be hearing from Dennis Tito. If this isn't exciting, having a mission that goes around Mars. I mean, there's a lot of wonderful, exciting stuff going, and so my message is, if you're in the business of passing on information about Mars and space in general to the public, be skeptical, be cynical, look where the money's coming from, and excite people about, even though it's in the future, find out what really excites people, because there's a lot of people who want to be excited about Mars, and we can do it without selling them on stuff that time and again does not match up to the hype. Thank you.
icebreaker mission is going to look for current life on Mars.
That's as I understand it,
So
yeah.
it's diametrically opposed to the statements made about the time that the Mars 2020 was announced.
Yeah, I think Mars, Mars is a big organization, so they may not know what, the left hand may not know what the right hand is doing, but I just think they are starting to get much more cheery about saying, we are going to confirm that we found life, or we are looking for life, and just blurring that line about life now and life 4 billion years ago. Rightly so. I think we just got to take it all with a little bit of grain of salt and let our readers or our listeners know that going in.
Well, one more thing.
Well, no, let me get at the other question first.
What is the most exciting thing you think you currently know about Mars that's probably true, and where can I find more information on it?
Oh gosh, what's the most exciting thing I know about Mars? Hey, Curiosity landing. I mean, I didn't know I could hold my breath for 7 minutes.
No, I mean about the planet itself.
Yeah, well, I can't quite anyway. Yeah, just the fact that we are there with a 1-ton laboratory in this nuclear power. They don't have to worry about dust covering up or winter or something. We are there. We are for me when Curiosity got down and checked out. We were really there. We were there with a decent sized lab. Yes.
Judging from comments, correspondence, columns that you've written, what do you think people are responding kind of most vigorously to the sort of things that you write with the second ones?
Oh, thank you. So the question is, what are my readers that I hear, and what are they? They get really pissed off when they hear something has been found, and then a week later they withdraw, and it makes me look, it makes all of us who are in the business look silly. So yeah. So one thing is, don't tell us something until you really check it out yourself and you're convinced. I think people are confused at the moment. Why are we, so this is one question. So we've got Curiosity 2020 or whatever it's going to be called, but we've already got this. It's going to be virtually the same instrument on Mars. Why are we going back there to do the same thing? I mean, we know it's about the same thing because this is costing 1.5 billion. Curiosity costs 2.5 billion. It's costing less because they're basically using Curiosity to redux, So I think people want to get this long-term sense, which, given the politics and the administration, none of us are in a position to say what the long-term plan for Mars is. There's this huge gap between, Chris McKay talking about terraforming and Curiosity finding signs of water from 4 billion years ago. There's this gap, and I think people are confused. That's the message I'm getting. Thank you, guys.
Just one more follow-up.
Yes, sir.
Did you know that our icebreaker mission is not funded?
I did not know that Icebreaker mission was not funded. See, that's
example. You're an example of how you don't have all the information.
Yeah.
Because NASA is purposely trying to confuse people by not releasing all their stuff.
Thank you. Okay, I'm coming after you right after.
And I might say that'll continue to happen until we quit putting attorneys in the White House and start putting engineers and scientists.
I think that's as good a place to end it.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.